From the National Weather Service in Raleigh, this is Nick Petro with a briefing for Central North Carolina as it relates to light freezing rain and freezing drizzle that's expected through midday Saturday for the northern half of Central North Carolina. And as always, usually with these types of scenarios, the greatest impacts are expected along and north of 85. So when we sent out these slides around midday, there was the main change to what we sent out at midday is the upgrade in the watch warning advisory situation from a winter weather advisory to a winter storm warning for Person, Granville, and Vance counties. And we based that on some reports that we've collected throughout the morning into the afternoon that that's where we had sort of the greatest accumulation last night and this morning of ice. Now, albeit it wasn't that it wasn't terribly a lot. We're talking, 0.05 or maybe 1/10 of an inch of ice on trees. And as far as I could tell, there really wasn't much in the way of road impacts. But the part that really was concerning to us is look at these temperatures. These are live. This is live data, and you can see up in that part of Central North Carolina, temperatures are at or in many cases below freezing. In fact, you could see there in Person County, the temperature was flip-flopping between 32 and 30 degrees all day, 29 and even 28 at times at Henderson. So the point is, in these three counties, Person, Granville, and Vance, where we have the winter storm warnings, there is still well, let me state it this way. Whatever ice falls tonight and Saturday will add to the ice that fell this morning. So, when you add it all up, if you add another, let's say 1/10 or 2/10 of ice accumulation to the 1/10 of ice that didn't melt today, then, that exceeds, 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. And that's when we start to see more major impacts. When you get 1/4 inch of ice accumulation, that's when we start seeing more down trees, power lines, and road conditions. So now, had these areas warmed up above freezing, like much of the rest of Central North Carolina did today, then that ice accumulation would have melted. And then basically we would have been starting over, in which case we probably would have just left a winter weather advisory up for those Virginia border counties. But because those three counties are already getting a jump start with ice already on trees and power lines heading into tonight, well, then that should push those three counties' ice accumulation up over 1/4 inch, which will probably result in, like I said, more more notable, more substantial impacts. So anyway, here's the current, like I said, the current situation. You can see just about, everywhere else it's at or above 32. Greensboro and Winston-Salem are 30, but they had been, bouncing around 30, 32 most of the day. So there was some melting going on there. And really no issues once you get south of the Highway 64 corridor with temperatures, staying above freezing. And that's all rain. The background image is current radar, but that's slightly what I would say overdoing it, because this is composite reflectivity. Let me switch to a little bit better way of looking at this. And what we're looking at here is the lowest angle. So which wood is actually reaching the ground. So the bottom line is that right now the current radar shows generally very light precip, basically across eastern and southeast North Carolina. There is a little bit of drizzle that's starting to kind of take shape here, just west the western portion of the Triad. So we're going to be watching. That area to see if it expands or continues to evolve this evening. But let me show you some reflectivity simulations to show you how we think this will all evolve. And I've been talking a lot today, so I apologize for my scratchy voice. So anyway, actually, let me switch to a different screen. Bear with me here. And let's see if I can get this. Okay, here we go. So what I've got here are two radar simulations. And, I like to include these in my PowerPoint briefings, but I have the ability to look at more than one at a time. So just for comparison's sake, to see, what's the difference between various models. I've got one good model on the left and another really good model on the right. And I like to look at good models, good weather models, so that, we can compare them all. We expect them to perform very well. And basically, these, near-term high-resolution models, we would hope would give us a pretty good solution in the next 12 to 24 hours. But still, there may be differences. So as I'm going to just kind of scroll through each hour, and you can see there's a little bit of difference in intensity of freezing rain, and I'll point out that the pink area is freezing rain and the green area is rain. So basically, this evening, early evening, we're going to be looking at either just some light freezing rain where you see pink, or maybe even just freezing drizzle. So very, very light intensity this evening in the areas that you see pink there, basically along and north of Highway 64. And then as we head into the evening hours, it seems to kind of consolidate and become a little bit better organized, again, along and north of 64 as we head into the early overnight hours. And then watch it lift up north towards the Virginia border. And basically, essentially the along and north of 64 will be the areas that we're going to be most concerned about and watching as we head through the overnight hours. But you'll notice the greatest concentration of freezing rain will be where the temperatures are the coldest, which is up along the Virginia border counties, along and north of Highway 85, Interstate 85. And then as we head into the late overnight hours, you can see not a whole lot of change. It just keeps going, okay? And then by the time we get to daybreak here, around 7 o'clock Saturday morning, one model on the left shows it starting to warm up very rapidly, so that the only place that remains freezing rain is along and north of 85. Well, this other model here basically keeps the freezing rain going a little bit further south, down to the 64 corridor, even just a little bit after daybreak. And so we'll call the model on the right sort of the worst case scenario in terms of how long the freezing rain will persist along the Highway 64 corridor. But sure enough, as we head through the midday, even that model that's a little bit later with the freezing rain moving north, even that model does show pretty quick warming by 10 a.m. So that by 10 a.m., we're seeing freezing rain only persisting north of 85. And then by midday, it starts to pretty much go away, even everywhere, even up near the Virginia border. By early afternoon tomorrow, we're pretty much looking at, just pretty much rain across all of central North Carolina, even up near even up in Person County, for example, which is usually one of the coldest counties in the Raleigh coverage area, and is the last to switch over. Well, that'll be the case this time, but still, even there by 4 p.m., it should be pretty much winding down in terms of the freezing rain. Okay. So let me run through that one more time just to kind of give you a sense. Here's this evening, just some very light drizzle, very light freezing rain for those in the pink shaded areas, rain for those in the green shaded areas. And then as we head through the early overnight hours, it kind of consolidates, maybe picks up a little bit in intensity. Again, the greatest intensity and probably the best accumulations of ice will be along the Virginia border counties where it's the coldest. And then that pretty much continues right through the overnight hours. And then gradually during the morning hours, it begins to warm up from south to north. And that by midday, we're probably, looking at just some light lingering freezing rain north of 85. And that by mid-afternoon, it's pretty much over. Okay. And all rain. So that's the way we see this sort of playing out. So let's go ahead and look at the slides real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I'll get to that in a minute. And I've captured a couple of those slides and I've put them in the PowerPoint slide that I'll be emailing out pretty soon. So you'll get this in the email. This is kind of what I wanted to jump to show you the amounts. And particularly for those counties that are in the warning area, Person, Granville, and Vance County, this is almost like the storm total amount. And for areas south, of those 3 counties, these are new accumulations, okay? So north of 85, storm total accumulations between 1/10 and 1/4 inch, highest near the Virginia border, and that's where we think that we'll have the scattered power outages, the down trees, the down power lines, especially near the Virginia border. Okay, and once you get south of 85, down toward the Highway 64 corridor, we're talking a very light glaze, maybe up to 1/10 or 1/8 of an inch possible. So given those lower end amounts, we're thinking that impact should be very limited with light icing mainly on elevated surfaces. Okay, so anyway, that's the in terms of the amounts, possibly a light glaze all the way down the Highway 64, and the highest amounts in the warned area around 1/4 of an inch of ice. All right, so and this slide just basically summarizes what I just said. Tonight through Saturday, we're talking, 1/10 to 1/4 inch north of 85 and up on the Virginia border, and south of 85 to Highway 64, just a light glaze up to 1/4, up to 1/8 of an inch rather. Okay, and then obviously tomorrow night, what about temperatures tomorrow night? And let me show you. Hopefully this graphic will work. I tried to preload it. We'll see what happens. But this is our official forecast, and I'll go ahead and start with I'll go ahead and start at 11 p.m. tomorrow night. And our official forecast, and I apologize that this isn't loading very well, but our official forecast, and I think I'm going to just go ahead and skip this because for whatever reason it's not loading very quickly. So let's try this another way. Let me jump to Saturday night, and set 7 p.m. And let me zoom in a little bit. So sorry, I'm fumbling around here with my images here. All right, there we go. So this is Saturday night. So 7 p.m., 10 p.m., 1 a.m. You see dropping, basically staying around 32 along and north of 85. So even if, and this is 4 a.m. right here. So even if the freezing rain ends by mid-afternoon along and north of 85, temperature really isn't going to climb above 32. So there could be some black ice issues come Sunday morning. Once you get south of 85, though, it looks like the temperature doesn't really plummet tomorrow night. These are hour-by-hour temperatures that we have Saturday night. And here's our low temperature forecast for Saturday night into Sunday morning. And you can see temperatures are pretty steady, in fact. So if you're south of 85, I don't think there's going to be a dramatic black ice concern Sunday morning. I think the biggest travel concerns and icy slick spot concerns will be along and north of 85, places that get the highest amounts as well. All right, so again, I apologize for the scratchy throat there and the difficulty hearing me. So it's been quite a day. So anyway, that's the way we think things are going to play out with this one. And in terms of next briefings, this will probably be our only live webinar for this particular storm event. But we will be sending email updates as needed. We'll probably have another one out tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow during the day as well. So now that we're kind of in the midst of the storm. So that's the current briefing for Central North Carolina here on this 12th of February at 4:30.